The Indian Economic Story 2020. On the 11th of November, we are all aware of this fact that RBI released its first ever nowcast report, in which under its chapter The State of the Economy, the Reserve Bank of India informed that for the very first time in the Indian economical history, India is likely to have entered into a technical recession in the first half of the financial year 2021 with two successive quarters of the GDP contraction. Hello my dear friends, I am Pratik Agrawal and today we are gonna discuss about what this technical recession is. What is this new term that RBI has mentioned all of a sudden? How is India gonna be entering into this phase? If we see from the glasses of a common man, if we see from the common man's perspective, it is very much difficult to understand this term called as technical recession. It becomes very much difficult for millions of masses to understand what this technical recession is all about. My dear friends, let me help you. The Reserve Bank of India predicts in its nowcast report that India's economy is going to be contracted by 8.6% in the second quarter of the financial year 2020-21. Before going further, let's understand what this recession is. A recession happens when a gross domestic product or the GDP of a nation or the output of goods and services decreases for a continued long period of time. Now what is this? Whenever a GDP of any nation decreases for a continued period of long time, or when there is a high amount of manufacturing of goods and services but there is no proper output or no proper sale of that manufactured goods and services for a continued period of a long time, then this period of recession comes. Then now what is a technical recession? A technical recession is when there is a back-to-back deadline in a nation's GDP for 2 quarters, then this recession is called as a technical recession. That means when the recession period sustains for more than 1 or 2 quarters, then that recession period is called as a technical recession, and when this continues for years, then this phase is called as recessionary phase. So with this dire prediction, the RBI also states a report by the Oxford Economics. Oxford Economics is one of the most finest stated economics of the world, and it states that India will be the worst affected among the world's major economics even after the pandemic wanes. That means Oxford Economics has stated that India will be one of the most economically affected countries even after this pandemic ends. Then which states that with which we can predict that this dire prediction of economical contraction is going to stay for long. In the first quarter, when the reports of GDP contraction of 23.9% came, India was one of the worst hit economy among the most developed economical countries in the world. But we were only shown the news of the India's GDP contraction with 23.9%. But my dear friends, let me tell you, India was not the only country to be affected by GDP, but there were some other countries who followed also India in having GDP contraction. Like India was followed by UK with GDP contraction of 21.7%. In South Asia itself, according to International Monetary Fund, that is IMF, it states that if India is not overtaken, India is expected to be equaled with Bangladesh's economy by the year end of 2025. That means India registered a negative growth rate in the economy in a 10% of negative growth rate in the economy in the year 2020, whereas Bangladesh reported a positive growth of their economy with 3.8% growth rate in this same period. There are many renowned economists, financial experts who have claimed that the pandemic and the subsequent lockdown in which we were in since the March 24 is the reason for this downturn in the economy. Yes, they would be right to a large extent, but I would like to say that this situation would have been present if there would not be any kind of pandemic like this too. Because if we see this kind of economic condition of India was largely predicted by many financial economists long before, right? If there wouldn't be any pandemic, India would have been seeing such kind of economic conditions then also, not in a large or rapid extent like it is seen in today's present scenario, but yes, it would have seen like this economic condition if there wouldn't be any kind of pandemic too. So for how long this is gonna be running? For how long is this gonna be sustaining? India experienced a dream run, as many economists called that in the 21st century, India will be becoming one of the fastest growing economical countries in the world. And yes, it was so significant because while the whole world was facing a financial crisis, there was a huge financial crisis which was hit in the whole world in the year 2008. India was one of the only countries which was marginally affected by this financial crisis. Then these economists called that India would be one of the most fastest growing economical countries in the coming year in the 21st century. But there was a complete turn of the decade in the 2010 which started to show the cracks which were so relevant by the policies that were made by the UPA government in the year 2010, which showed starting cracks in the economical policies of our nation of India, which exposed the capitalist exploitation of land, labor and natural resources, etc. So this deteriorating economic situation was one of the major issue or one of the major reasons that why NDA came into the power. The National Democratic Alliance came into the power in the year 2014, and since then they came up with many change in the economic policies. They came with many economic reforms which were being happily welcomed by the top economists of this nation. But it all changed on the date of 8th of November 2016. Yes, we as Indians cannot forget this date. This is the date when the Prime Minister came in front of the people in the television and all of a sudden he announced that आज रात 12 बजे के बाद 500,000 के नोट बैन होने वाले हैं, वो लागू नहीं होंगे. This was the statement which shook entire nation, people from all the industries, may it be rich or may it be poor, all of them got shook that all of a sudden such a big decision was taken. The demonetization was a well-intentioned move to curb black money from the nation, to curb black money and encourage digitalization of the transactions in the entire country. And it proved to be a mixed gamble, but it could be one of the most we may say unintentional move. We can say it could be proved as a mixed gamble, but the only benefit or the best thing about this demonetization was, since the demonetization, India has been seeing a rapid growth in the digitalization of the payment system or on the banking system in our country today. In our country, digital transactions has been in a par level since this demonetization has been happened. So it is one of the best thing that we can grab from demonetization. But there is uncertain unanimity among the economists of the nation on the adverse effects of demonetization and how Indian economy started to contract since its implementation. It is one of the policy that has shook or that has been one of the played a major part in the GDP contraction of our nation since then. But after that, after a year later, one more policy or one more reform, one of the biggest reform that was being made by NDA was that the GST was implemented in the year 2017, a year later than the demonetization, when the then finance minister of our country, late Sri Arun Jaitley, one of the finest intellectual minds, came into the parliament and presented the GST bill before the parliament, before the August House. It was one of the best move being taken by this government, but it too fell short in implementation, affecting small and informal businesses and affecting the government's revenue collection. The main plan or the main objective for which the GST was being implemented 3 years back is still now unfulfilled. These back-to-back blows badly affected Indian economy. And there is a still last nail left in the coffin, that was this pandemic, and this has hit too. So these are the main reasons for why the Indian economy has been seeing a deteriorating change. But all is not bleak here. There is still hopefully a brighter way forward. Just a day after the RBI released its first ever nowcast report, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman announced some relief and stimulus measures for economy worth Rs 1.19 lakh crore. The third package of the Atmanirbhar Bharat package was being announced just a day after the RBI released its nowcast report. These measures covers almost all of the major sectors, from fertilizer subsidy in agriculture, Rs 10,000 crores towards Manrega to boost rural employment, to even a hefty 900 crore package towards COVID research and development. In the G20 countries, G20 is one of the member organizations in which the 20 most powerful countries across the world join together. They form an organization and they discuss the whole world's most important highlighted issues. So in the G20 countries meeting that held recently on 28th of November, the finance minister highlighted the importance of G20 action plan to deal with the ongoing economic crisis. She highlighted the importance of debt services suspension initiative that was took in the month of in the G20 in April, and that is being extended till June in the next year. It's true that we are in a very difficult situation from the economist perspective today. We cannot deny of the fact that India's economy is vastly affected in the present scenario. But we should also know that this kind of similar ongoing crisis is being faced by the major developed countries all around the world today. But it is important to be incredibly aware of this ongoing crisis so that one can be prepared for such future turbulences on its way. Thank you very much everyone. I hope I was very much clear. I hope I was clear with my views. I was clearly presenting my views before you. Thank you very much. Please do give like, share and subscribe on our video. We'll soon come with more interesting topics in the future. Thank you.